Hello and welcome, my killdozers, to another episode of Bloons Tower Defense 6. If you guys are enjoying this content, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe, because today we've got the top tier, third tier towers in Bloons Tower Defense 6. So first of all, look at all these colors. There's a lot going on the screen right now, but all I want you to think about is your top favorite third tier towers and maybe some of the worst third tier towers in the game, and let's see if our ideologies line up. But before we get there, we have to talk about each tower individually and kind of what they do. The Spike-a-Pult is a long-distance shooting catapult tower that goes through a ton of balloons, but it's kind of hard to hit them, of course, shooting down a straight line like that. We've got the triple shot Dart Monkey, which throws pretty quickly, and he throws 3 darts, all popping a pretty good amount of balloons. And we've got the crossbow, which is kind of your like damage doer, popping through multiple layers of balloons with a single shot here. He can do a lot of damage, but he doesn't necessarily have that much pierce. As usual, boomerangs are some of my favorite towers in the game. I really like them. I think they're fun. I think they're cool. So maybe I'm biased. Just keep that in mind. All of this is, of course, my opinion. So if you have a different opinion, that's okay. Just throw it in the comments below, and if people respect your opinion or agree with you, they're going to like it. So first of all, we've got the Glaive Ricochet, which is a pretty awesome tower that sort of bounces around in between the different balloons here, and he can jump around to balloons literally anywhere on the screen, which is just really, really cool. We've got the Bionic Boomer, which is just a fast-shooting, pretty accurate, damage-doing tower here. He throws boomerangs around, and he's going to hit a lot of balloons. And the Kylie Boomerang, which throws a heavy Kylie Boomerang in kind of a straight line. It comes right back to you and pops a pretty significant amount of balloons in that way. We've got to talk about these boom-booms here. We've got the top half, the really big bombs here, which is a really fun tower. I think a lot of people underestimate this tower because he ends up popping a lot of balloons. He can pop through 3 layers of balloons in just a single shot here, and it's pretty significant what he can do, especially in combination with, faster reload or something like that. He just does damage. The Moab Mauler, he's designed to pop Moabs, but that's not the only thing that he can pop. He can pop other types of balloons as well, and he's not that bad at doing it. In fact, he's got a pretty good amount of buffs going on with that guy to help him out. And we've got the Cluster Bomb, which throws out a big cluster of bombs kind of around him here. Very helpful, does a lot of damage, and that's kind of his only job there, is just to hit a lot of balloons all at once. I really got to give Ninja Kiwi some props here for making all of these towers look really, really cool, and right at third tier, that's when they get the cool colors. Before this point, I mean, like, they can be interesting, like, alright, it's just a little bit of pink action, you can mix it up here, but when you finally get to third tier, it's like, we have decided which way it's going to go, and we've decided we got to give it some color here. And they really did a great job with it. I mean, these all are very different and very fun ways. So Ninja Kiwi, great job on that. Anyways, tack shooters here. We've got the Hot Shots, which can go through multiple layers of balloons here. That is unbelievable. It can go through, it does damage to the balloons here, which means it's going to do a lot more than you probably think. In addition, he shoots pretty fast and can pop lead balloons, so that's pretty cool too, right? Who doesn't like that? We've got a Blade Shooter. Kind of like the black sheep of the tack shooters right now. Not that many people use him, but in no way, shape, or form is he bad, right? He pops a lot of balloons. He's got a pretty good amount of pierce, and does damage. I mean, that's pretty sweet here. And then in addition, we've got the tack sprayer, which sprays out a lot of projectiles. If you start buffing this guy, he gets pretty beastly, but by himself, he can be okay in the early game, but as he goes on, he's going to become less and less useful. Now, the ice towers are pretty gosh darn cool, if you ask me. Get it? Alright, anyways. We've got the, let's talk about the top path first. The Ice Shards, which can literally explode balloons into shards that explode other balloons, and it ends up being quite awesome. He ends up being not used all that much, but he's still a pretty useful tower overall. Then we've got the Arctic Wind, which slows balloons down in his range, in addition being able to pop a lot of balloons here. It's a pretty interesting tower, but not all that useful because of the small range or deciding to get permafrost. It's kind of difficult to use properly. And then you've got the Cryo Cannon, which did get quite a few buffs recently. I'm also realizing how many zebras come out at around 37 now, and white balloons, because we can't do anything against these guys. And as you probably know by now, ice towers have a big weakness. white and zebra blues. Indubitably. The crowd cannon is pretty cool because he can aim, and he's got a pretty good amount of range here, which can give him a lot more versatility compared to a lot of the other ice towers that have a very small, short range to deal with here. Very quickly, I just want to remind you guys that glue gunners don't really work well with each other. All right? They're kind of like steal each other's glues or just don't glue other balloons. So, like, they just don't. You can't combine them with other glue gunners very often. You usually can have to pick one of the three. But, that being said, let's talk about them. First of all, we've got the Bloon Dissolver, which dissolves the balloons. You're going to see those zebras turning into absolutely nothing here. If you get a pretty high-tier balloon, you can just melt these guys. Your major issue is hitting the right balloons. Obviously, hit the right balloons. Once you hit them, you're going to be golden. The glue hose is all about gluing as many balloons as you possibly can get. All they do is slow them down, get them ready for your other towers to pop them, and that's completely fine. Then you've got the Moab glue, which is designed against, who would have thunk it? Moabs! It actually got buffed pretty recently. I think now it slows down to 66% instead of 50% like it used to be. So it's slowing down a little bit more, and it's honestly pretty awesome. I mean, look at the speed on these guys. That's pretty slow, and that's, you know, without getting any of these other upgrades that even help it out. So holy crap, this guy could be a really fun addition to your team. You probably want to put him near the front of the map, and he's pretty cool. And look at these color schemes, just looking awesome here. I love the versatility, or just the differences in these three third-tier towers, man. Blue, red, and purple. Looking great, and you can really tell the difference. They've got 3 different colored eyes. The designers of these towers were great. The artists of Ninja Kiwi, man, gotta give you some mad props, all right? I don't even notice some of these things until I actually think about it, but they look beautiful. So, first of all, we've got the Arcane Mastery, which is kind of a weird upgrade. It's really not that powerful all the time, but he does do some damage. He does do a decent amount of poppages, but usually he's kind of on the way to getting an Arcane Spike, because then you can start to do Moab damage and stuff. By himself, he's really not bad, but he's usually outshined by a lot of other towers. Then we've got the Dragon's Breath, which is honestly a pretty sweet tower that's very underused in Bloons Tower Defense 6. It spews endless flames against these monkeys here, and he's got the Wall of Fire here. Really, truly, his only weakness is these purple balloons. The great thing about a lot of these wizards is that they get combo effects of every previous upgrade before them. So they usually don't lose their upgrades before them, they just gain additional effects on top of it. So the Wall of Fire, we keep it, and now we can also get this Dragon's Breath. Don't forget, this is also pretty good against Moabs and pretty good against Ceramics, so it doesn't really have a true weakness. It's just kind of an all-around good tower. And we've got the Shimmer, which is not designed as a popping power tower. He's designed as a decamoization tower. Honestly, it's really not that effective as a decamoization tower, because usually you just want to get a village, and then everything in your range is going to be camo detecting instead of decamoizationing. And that usually means he's not as useful as you want him to be, but he does have some future upgrades into being really powerful and are much more useful. I'm not saying this guy's worthless, but you usually have other options for camo detection, making this guy a little obsolete. These guys are pretty sexy towers. I think we can all agree they look cool, they look fun, they're really awesome. First of all, we've got the Sun Avatar, which is all about that balloon popping power. This guy was actually completely broken when Bloons Tower Defense 6 came out. He was by far the best tower in the game. You alchemize this guy, you win, automatically. But they've changed him, and they've changed Alchemist, and they've changed a lot of stuff about him. So he's still really powerful, but only till about round 80 or so, and then he loses his edge quite a bit. Next, we've got the Robo Monkey, which shoots 2 different projectiles. Pretty cool. He's got a ton of range over here. And he's got different types of targeting. One weird thing is you cannot keep them both on the same targeting. So you might want to leave them both on first, or both on close, or both on last. You cannot do that. You have to leave 2 different targetings. But he's okay. He's a little underwhelming, but he's really not as bad as a lot of people put him out to be. And we've got the Dark Knight, which is a Moab popping power tower. If you've got some Moabs over here and you want them destroyed, well, you better throw in a Dark Knight here. In addition to sending the balloons back and having a good amount of pierce, he does just a great job overall. Well, ninjas as third tiers are actually kind of underwhelming. They're not... I don't want to be too biased here, but I think they're some of the worst towers in the game. Not that ninjas are that bad, but the third-tier ninjas specifically. We've got Double Shot, which is going to start throwing 2 shurikens instead of just 1. So in the early part of the game, you can really increase your popping power here. But still, for the price, not as good as a lot of the other towers in here. Then you've got the Shinobi Tactics, which I would say the only reason to get a Shinobi Tactics is if you're going for a lot of 4th tier or 5th tier ninjas and you want to combine them together in a giant bundle. Because the way they work is they're going to speed up all the ninjas in your range and they can stack on top of each other. So you can put 20 of these guys next to something like a Bloonjitsu or a Grandmaster and make him shoot a bunch faster. And we've got the Flash Bomb, which is kind of a weird tower because he does stunning damage in here. But he throws it very unoften. He could stun the Bloons. He could do some damage. It's a little difficult to use him, but he's not a bad tower. Oh yeah, Alchemist, baby, here we go! So we've got a Perma-Brew. Excuse me, Berserker Brew. Oh, wouldn't that be delicious? Perma-Brew on round at tier 3. So Berserker Brew is going to increase the damage of a lot of your other towers in here. Not bad at all. Really useful for attackers and ninjas and kind of those towers that have a lot of projectiles that they can shoot out. It can power up multiple towers, but usually you just want to power up one tower with a Berserker Brew, and you can start powering up multiple with a stronger stem. Very useful. Probably one of the top tier towers in the game, so just keep that in mind. This guy's delish. Unstable Concoction. This is great for near the end of the game, which is weird because usually a 3rd tier tower is not used near the end of the game. But you want to use this mostly against high tier grouped balloons. So, round 80 and beyond, this is where this guy's really going to start to shine here. Before that, might not be too useful. And we've got the Lead to Gold, which has been buffed recently, and now is actually a pretty reasonable tower. He can pay for himself very, very quickly. Even with round 28 and 30, you're almost making your money back on this guy. And then for every future poppage on the rest of the game, this guy's totally worth it. Do not underestimate the Lead to Gold. He is actually a good tower. Everybody's favorite, most lovable tower in the game. We've got the Druid. First of all, the Druid of the Storm. This guy is going to throw back. First of all, keep in mind that he is similar to a wizard, where he takes in the previous upgrades and then adds on a new attack. So we've got the Lightning, we've got the regular attack, and now we've got a Druid of the Storm attack, which is going to throw back ceramics and other stuff towards the beginning of the map. To be straight with you, I'm not a huge fan of this guy, mostly because I feel like he's out-tiered by a lot of the other towers, but he's not bad by any means. You just have to make sure you're using him, like, completely right to make him useful here. Always sending back ceramics and putting him on strong. Then you've got the Druid of the Jungle, which is usually useful in a lot of challenges, but in regular games ends up being a little underwhelming because all he does is slurp up them ceramics every once in a while, but it takes a long time for those guys to come back. So unless you start spamming these guys or doing something weird with them, they can be a little bit difficult to use. Druid of Wrath. This guy's really, really weird, and honestly, I have a hard time using this guy because the way he works is he gains attack speed during the round as long as the Druid is attacking Bloons. So you can see, when we first started attacking, we were shooting pretty slow, and now we're shooting pretty gosh darn fast over here. This guy's not that bad anymore, but to get that huge amount of speed increase to actually make this useful here, it's difficult to get him going. In combination with almost any other upgrade, it's just hard to use this guy. He's hard. He's weird. The age-old question: what is the best banana farm? I like to not talk about this because literally, this is like blood here. I mean, if you say the wrong thing at all, people are gonna go after you, and they're gonna go for the heart, man. They're gonna go hard on you. All right, so we're just gonna leave it banana farms as they're all pretty good, and they're a little bit different. This guy makes bananas. This guy makes money by you depositing money or just making money over time. And eventually, you take it out. And this guy makes money by instantaneously adding it to your money pile here instead of having to grab it with your bananas, which is pretty cool. Another one of those really cool designed towers. You can tell that they all went a different way this time. We've got a red, a purple, and we've got a blue. All looking cool here, all looking different. Love it. Spike Balls. Does extra damage to ceramic and fortified balloons here. This guy's actually pretty freaking sweet. Alright, he pops a lot of balloons, he does damage to ceramics, you put him near the end of the map or something like that, and he's going to do a lot of damage. Then we've got the Moab Shredder, which is designed to pop Moabs, believe it or not. He's really difficult to use. Alright, just want to be straight with you guys, very difficult to use. He's super powerful against Moabs, but with spikes, it's hard to build up enough spikes to do damage to Moabs without having them somehow pop balloons in some weird way. He can be useful, but he's difficult to use. And we've got long life spikes, which are spikes that last a long time and can actually last multiple rounds here, building up for the really difficult rounds, and then being used up on those difficult rounds, which is pretty sweet. It's the most magical support tower in the game. We've talked about the villages. Primary training is going to increase the range, pierce, and projectile speed of all primary monkeys here. Pretty delicious. And it's only like $800, so totally worth it if you're going any amount of primary monkeys in the game here. Why would you not get this guy in most games? It's kind of weird, unless you're not going any primaries. Then we got the MIB, the Monkey Intelligence Bureau, which allows you to pop any type of balloon in its range. No matter what type of tower it is, no matter what type of balloon it is, any balloon can get popped, and this can be super duper useful if you're combining it with the right towers, like something like a bunch of cannons that really, really, really need to pop black balloons or DDTs or something like that, and they usually don't. Then we've got the Monkey Town, which allows you to make extra cash. Makes you 50% extra cash, which means 150% of the money that you're supposed to make, and that can mean a lot of money in the long run. Like, it'll easily pay for itself in usually 5-10 rounds, depending on the rounds that you're fighting up against. And for the rest of the game, it's going to make you extra cash beyond that. But things do have to be in its range to have that effect. So that can be a little bit difficult to pull that off. Looking good over here. Look at these little sniper bodies again. Great designs. Loving it. Deadly precision. Well, it does damage. It can pop a ceramic in one shot. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. And we can do crazy amounts of Moab damage and stuff. Like, that's fantastic. Absolutely. This guy's a really good tower. I would compare him to something like a middle path Druid, but usually a little better. Usually. Not always. Then we've got the Bouncing Bullet, which should not be underestimated. If you get the right upgrades with this guy, he can actually be a very useful tower. I don't want to go into too much detail with him, but his bullets will literally bounce to multiple targets right next to each other, but they have to be next to each other, or else it won't work properly. And we've got the semi-automatic rifle, which just makes you shoot really, really fast. One thing that I hesitate to say about all these snipers is the cross path, because all of them have really interesting ways to use their cross paths, and each one of them could go any which way depending on what kind of popping power you're trying to get out of them. They're all really good, they're all really fun, but which one do you go for? Nobody knows. Time to talk about these flying powerhouses of doom. I will say that I don't like the designs as much of the 3 monkey aces. A lot of them look pretty similar, especially the top path and the bottom path. They almost, I'm not going to say identical, but they look really close to each other. Same color designs and all that stuff. Kind of weird with the dots and everything. I don't know, do they confuse each other in some way? I don't know. Anyways, we've got the Fighter Plane, which flies pretty fast, shooting out his normal darts here, but also shooting out a Moab missile. So, when you've got these Moab missiles, they can pop Moabs, and they do group damage to Moabs, and that's pretty awesome. One of the best Moab poppers in the game, and of course, infinite range. Can't go wrong with that. Got the Bomber Race, which pops crap tons of balloons, baby. But he's got to be used in a somewhat difficult way. You have to really make sure those bombs are landing in the right spot, because he's only going to drop bombs when he goes over a certain part of the map over here. But when he does land, he's going to do mega damage on these guys. And never miss targeting, which, as you might understand, is supposed to never miss. Still misses a lot, but it's a lot more accurate, and that means you're getting almost the full amount of popping power out of your monkey ace, and that's pretty cool, because the weakness of a monkey ace is that he misses a lot. Alright, we're up with the heli pilots here. Design on the heli pilot, all very similar again, just smidge differences. Not as happy with the designs as the monkey ace. I don't know. They're okay, I guess. But let's talk about this. Razor Rotors. Alright, recently got buffed. Now does 2 damage instead of 1. Positioning here is going to matter a lot because you want to put him in the right spot here. We can do as much damage as he possibly can with his Razor Rotors, in addition to being able to hit the balloons with his regular darts. Now, what's weird about this is the previous upgrade before it is Pursuit. And if you get Pursuit and Razor Rotors, they're not super duper effective as a combo. It's better to put him on Follow Mouse and sort of be on the balloons instead. So keep that in mind when getting this guy. You're going to have to micro him if you want to get the true popping power out of him instead of just an okay amount of popping power. And the Downdraft, which sends Bloons backwards, as his name decided. he's downdrafting the Bloons backwards. And it's pretty difficult to use this guy, but he's useful in a lot of random missions. And honestly, if you use him properly, sending back super ceramics and fortified ceramics back to the beginning is pretty frickin' sweet, dude. Let's be straight with each other here. Third tier Mortar is one of those towers that not very many people are going to use. Mortars in general are one of those towers people don't use all that often. But third tiers in particular are something we don't use very often. They're very difficult to use properly. Even though they're an okay tower, they're kind of mid-tier, if you ask me. But they're difficult to use, and I respect people not using them. First of all, we got Shell Shock, which is a shockwave type amount of damage. Obviously, all the mortars, you're going to need to get cross-pass with these guys, and that's where the money really kind of leaves our pockets here. But the shockwave is going to end up creating, obviously, a shockwaves that pops Bloons in a wider area than it previously was. But what's interesting here is this increases birdie stuff damage, which is kind of interesting. Then we've got the middle path mortar, which is heavy shells. Does extra damage to ceramic, lead, and fortified, and all stunned Bloons. And can pop black balloons. Like, it's a lot of things all combined together, and that's why heavy shells is usually my go-to mortar in most situations. He's got a lot of things going for him. I think the main thing is definitely that ability to pop lead balloons, though, because it means that the mortar's main weakness is kind of gone at this point, which is pretty sweet. And it leads into artillery battery, which is fantastic. And last but not least, we've got the signal flare, which decamalizes. Alright, fair enough. I mean, we get the birdie stuff from before, but we decamelize the balloons now, so that's a non-issue for us. But is that really effective at all as a decamelization? No, it's not. It's a helpful addition to your team, but it really will not decamelize all the balloons, especially on something like round 78 with big chunks of camo ceramics. Difficult to use this guy properly. Ooh, hot diggity dog, the newest towers in the game. Let's talk laser cannon first. Don't underestimate this guy. He does a significant amount of pops. He's good against pretty much everything. And he does a weird amount of burny damage or lasery damage over time, which means the more random balloons you attack, instead of just hitting only the front balloon, the more damage you're going to do, and that can be really, really fun and kind of cool to use him. So, and he can pop frozen balloons, so like combining those guys together, like, pretty delish, man, pretty delish. Then we've got the Hydra Rocket Pods, which I think most people have probably used by this point in the game. Hydra Rocket Pods are pretty fantastic. They do explosive damage, can explode like 3 times here. Great against group balloons, not even bad against Moabs here, guys. Very useful, definitely top tier tower in the game. You can combine it with either Laser Shock or powerful darts, but I usually go powerful darts. And then we've got the Buckshot here, which got buffed recently and can now send ceramics backwards, which is kind of cool. A little difficult to use this guy because of that, you know, that weird amount of range that he's got, the inaccuracy of his balloons, of his shot, and because a lot of low-tier balloons can, like, absorb his pierce, meaning that he doesn't pop the balloons that he wants to pop. So, a little rough on the Buckshot here. Engineers, honestly, pretty sexy. I like these guys. They're pretty fun. Don't underestimate them. First, let's talk about Sprockets, which increases the Sentry Gun and Engineer attack speed. For the price, it's okay, but as far as a regular tower that's actually going to do a lot of damage and be useful in the long term, not one of these guys. Not a long-term tower, just get you going in the game, and that's okay. You can make him useful. Then we've got the Cleansing Foam, which removes camo and regrow, and pops lead balloons here. So it does a lot of different stuff. It completely ignores the other balloons, which is pretty cool, and then it hits the balloons that it really needs to hit over here. It doesn't last forever, but it does last a pretty good amount of time here. Then we've got the Double Gun, which is something that you should not underestimate. The Double Gun is actually, surprisingly, one of the best engineers in the game. One of the top tier towers in the game. He's not useful long-term. He's not useful against a bunch of big balloons, but against those low-tier balloons in the early game, one of the best towers in the game. All right, let's talk subs. So, Submergent Support. His only job is to decamelize balloons. Don't forget, you can unsubmerge him to pop balloons and resubmerge him to decamelize. A little bit of extra micro, but could be a useful technique if you're really struggling. Ballistics Missile. Well, what do you think it does? It shoots out a giant ballistics missile that shoots out and pops these balloons. If you get the long-range advanced intel, you can hit anywhere on the screen. If you get the other upgrade, it just means he's a really good popping power tower here. Pretty solid overall. Then we've got the triple guns, which is even better than a second tier here. Pops Bloons, pretty awesome. I don't know what else to say about him because he just, everybody knows what he does. He pops Bloons. Pretty cool monkey sub here. Liking him. Ooh, baby. Ooh, darling. All right, we got to talk about these Buccaneers here. The last ones on the list. First of all, the Destroyer. Attacks super duper fast. He does, indeed, attack super duper fast. Only useful if you're getting the Grape Shot, Hot Shot upgrade combo. Never get long-range camo detection on these guys. It's going to be useless. But he's pretty great. Pops a lot of Bloons, get an Alchemist under him, and he's going to do a lot of damage. Really good mid-tier, middle-round kind of tower here. Then we got the Cannon Ship, which was one of my most underrated towers in the game. I really like this guy. I think he's very useful. Obviously, water is difficult to find the right spot for every tower, but for the amount of damage you're getting out of this guy, it's pretty gosh darn sexy, all right? Very powerful cannon, lots of extra shots coming in here, pretty solid overall. And last but not least, we've got the Merchant Man, which pops camos. It's kind of all he really does, besides making you extra cash. He's usually less useful than a banana farm, and a lot of other ways to make money, unless you're going long-term with a lot of Merchant Men. And then once you get a lot of Merchant Men, then they start getting really, really, really good. But he's a weird tower. It's sometimes useful, but not always. Alright, guys, it's finally time to talk bananas. So, please keep in mind that, again, this is my opinion, and this is my thoughts, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Just leave them in the comments below, and if people agree with you and hate me and think my opinion's terrible, well, you'll find out in the comments pretty gosh darn fast. So, let's talk about these guys. First of all, we've got the sub. Yeah. He doesn't do very much besides camo detection. And, like, I guess he does that, but, like, no. I don't really care that much about that, dude. I don't really need that much. He's kind of a support tower that, like, is just not what I want. A Merchant Man, which makes us some cash flow, I suppose. He's tough to put in F tier because he does make money, and he's one of the only ways that a tower can make money per round. He's unique and special in that way. As far as regular usefulness, it's just not there. He's there for the very, very clutch, cliche, weirdo challenges or something, but not in a regular game. The Signal Flare. Again, it's another camo detection tower. Like, there's so many other ways to do it, and just as a third tier Mortar, I cannot decide to get this guy very often, like, at all. A Shimmer. It's the same thing. Camo detection, guys. What's up with this? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little biased here, but all of my camo detection has not been very useful. At all. Alright, Shinobi Tactics. Yeah, I mean, I could see how people can put this much higher. I could see people putting this in A tier even, you know? But for me, no. It is one of the best strategies in the game, but by himself, he does nothing. He's terrible. So, I'm not talking about Grandmaster Ninjas, I'm talking about Shinobis. And Shinobis are not that good. Druid of Wrath, it's the same thing, guys. You really need to get a bunch of these guys to make them worthwhile, and you really want to get the 4th tiers, not the 3rd tiers, to make them worthwhile. They're not terrible, but I cannot find them useful in a normal situation. Long Life Spikes, man, I wish these guys were better. Again, I find them useful in a couple challenges here and there, but realistically, in regular terms, nope. They're just not useful. They're really bad for the amount of money you're spending. You're not getting much damage out of them. Try to ignore them. And Cleansing Foam. Again, a camo detection tower. You're noticing something here. Almost all of my towers here are camo detecting towers, which means that I don't find them all that useful just as a camo detecting tower. They have the ability to do so, but they're not what I want to see out of a tower. Alright, we're in my D tier list. We gotta go Spike-a-Pult here, man. I don't know. Is he useful for you guys? I rarely ever use this guy. It's difficult to do it, even when I do. I feel like sometimes he's good and sometimes he's just bad. And I don't think he's consistent enough to be any higher than D tier. Ice Shards. You know, I could see other people using this guy a lot more, but with that ice weakness, without being consistent, he's just going to sit in my D tier. Shell Shock is kind of a weird one. I could easily put him higher, but I think there's so many other towers that just outclass him that I have a hard time putting him any higher. Buckshot. Oh, baby, I want this guy to be better. I think he's really cool, but as I said earlier, if you hit the wrong Bloons, you're worthless, bro. You're worthless. You got to hit those high-tier, high-ceramic balloons, or else you're not doing much damage at all. And that lack of consistency, again, just hurts my soul. Arcane Mastery, yeah, he's down here, man. I'm not a big fan of this guy. I don't know what it is. I just feel like for the price, he should be a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying that his future upgrades don't get better, but as an Arcane Mastery, he's not that good. Robo Monkey, I think most people agree with me here. I think most people might even put him in F tier. Like, what are you going to use a Robo Monkey for, bro? He's just not there. Double Shot, again, the Ninja. If you get a higher level Ninja, if you alchemize him, fantastic. Double Shot, the only use I can see is if you're kind of new to the game and you don't really know how to use the other early game towers very well. Flash Bomb is difficult to use. If you get a bunch of Shinobis, you get a good amount of Flash Bombs going, like, all right, you can make some stuff happen. But by himself, even just adding one of them randomly, he's too expensive for what you're getting out of him. Druid of the Jungle, he's still kind of low. D tier, I could see a C tier maybe, but anything higher than that, absolutely not. Druid of the Jungle, he just does some pops here and there. Meh. Mob Shredder, very difficult to use. Oh my god, so difficult to use this guy. Only way that I see you're going to use this guy right is if you get an ice tower right next to your Moab Shredder so that you stall the balloons as soon as they pop out and the Moabs just keep getting, popped right there. It's very difficult to use. The only way it's going to make it happen work very well for you. Sprockets. Shooting fast, don't mean nothing. Engineer, still low tier beginning tower. Not going to go late game at all with this guy. So, quick reminder that C-tier towers are not towers that are bad. Alright? I mean, even D-tier towers, not towers that are bad. They're just not as useful as my C-tier towers and not as useful as my B-tier towers. C-towers are towers that I think, yeah, they're okay. You can use them sometimes. And I would not be upset. But there's still better towers out there. We got to talk about the cluster bombs. Yeah, cluster bombs. Down in the C tier. That's kind of weird to put them down here. It's mostly because, as far as his group popping power goes, he's still kind of weak against a lot of balloons. Zebras, blacks. Yeah, talk about it, man. Even ceramic class balloons, weak, worthless against Moabs. What's this guy good for? Well, popping a lot of low tier group balloons, and that he does pretty well. Blade Shooter. I don't know where to put this guy. I feel like the other attack shooters are just better. They're just better. He's okay. He's all right. That's why he's C tier. He's just all right. Arctic Wind slows the balloons down. Kind of a weird support tower. Doesn't really do that much damage overall. Sort of difficult to use. That's why he's still just in the C tier. Glue Hose. He hits blues. He glues them. But for the price, is it worth it? I don't know. Semi-automatic rifle. So don't forget that this is only 3 times speed. Honestly, if you just get 3 snipers up to, like, 0 popping power or something, it's almost as even. It's kind of weird. Semi-automatic rifle is one of those really weird towers that, like, isn't always that good. You really want to get that fully auto rifle or go all the way up to 5th tier to make this guy really worthwhile. Ballistics Missile. Yeah, down in the C tier. I find him a little difficult to use. I want that advanced intel so I can get the explosions to be all over the place on the screen, and that's pretty cool, but then you're taking away your airburst darts, which is really the clutch awesomeness of the sub. And if you get those two guys together, you're really limiting your range and your damage overall. So he's tough to use because of a hard cross-path decision. Never miss targeting. I would not say that this guy is bad, and I would say that he's got a lot of use cases and a lot of the weirder, harder maps. But in the early game, in the early maps, even intermediate maps, probably not going to use the never miss targeting all that much. Moab Shove. He's good at one thing, shoving back Moabs, and that he does pretty decently. But for the price, there's usually other ways to go. Just getting a regular Moab glue and gluing a lot of Moabs all at once, probably a better bet than the Moab Shove. Heavy Shells. We're doing damage. Mortars, still 3rd tier Mortars, not usually that good of a tower, but I gotta put him up somewhere because he does pop a decent amount of stuff for me. Druid of the Storm, again, we've got those tornadoes. They're pretty sweet and they're pretty cool, but you're not hitting the right balloons every single time. And that's really gonna put a damper on your spirits here. It's going to be tough to aim the right balloons with this guy. And the marketplace. All right, yeah, Banana Farm's got to go somewhere, man, so we're just putting him in the C tier. So B tier towers are the towers that I think, yes, you should use in a lot of your games. They're pretty solid, they're pretty good, I like them, and not useful in every single situation, but they're still pretty solid. Crossbow. He does damage, he does early game stuff, he's got automatic cam detection, he's just not really that many weaknesses besides big chunks of low-tier balloons, which don't come out that often, I should add. Blade Ricochet. Yeah, he pops a lot of low-tier balloons. Once they get higher, to ceramics and higher, yeah, he's going to have some weaknesses. So that's why he's only B tier and not anything higher. Bionic Boom Boom. All right. This guy could go pretty much anywhere on your list. I could argue anything. Besides probably F tier. I could argue anything for Bionic Boomer. If you alchemize this guy, he does a good amount of popping power. He's very consistent, which I like. And he's got some cool cross paths, too. Really big bombs. Oh, baby. Oh, my God. He does damage, man. He really does a lot of damage. He can just jump through those layers like ridiculous style. This guy's pretty solid. Tech Sprayer. So many projectiles. So many projectiles. One of the best early game popping power towers in the game. If you get him in the right spot, dude, he will be solid for a long time. Bloon Dissolver, I could put, again, anywhere on my list. I think he could be D tier if you want. I don't really care. I would have a hard time saying S tier or anything, but I think B tier fits him pretty well, because if you get the right Bloons, if you hit the right ceramics, and if you hit those right high tier rainbows and stuff, he's going to do a lot of pops. But don't forget that takes a long time to pop. It's difficult to get him just right, and he's going to hit a lot of the wrong Bloons. Of course, that's what glue gunners do. They hit the wrong Bloons. Deadly Precision. All right, we're popping some pretty high-tier Bloons at this point, but it's still a pretty pricey penny here for this guy. I mean, this is like a 1843 never-minted Delaware penny here. He's not going to do it every single time. All right, he's just okay. Fighter Plane. We're popping Moabs. We be popping Moabs. And that's solid. That's all he does, and he does a good job of it. And group Moabs, too, so that's very helpful. Bomber Race. Ooh, baby. I could see people putting this higher or lower depending on what your playstyle is. If you're in races all the time, you're going to put Bomber Race S tier. All right? If you're in regular games, you're going to say Bomber Race. When do I use that guy? I mean, not that often. And that's true. So that's why he's got to be B. Downdraft. Same thing, guys. I could put this guy a little bit lower. I could put him C tier. Maybe D tier. But if you use him right, he's really not bad, you know? I mean, sending those ceramics back to the front, I mean, if you use the right micro on this guy, he's pretty awesome. Dragon's Breath. Ooh, baby. This guy's good. I like him, man. I like him a lot. But he loses his edge so fast, and the 4th tier right after that is kind of worthless. So Dragon's Breath has got to stay only in B tier instead of anything higher than that. He's just a solid all-around tower. Sun Avatar. He pops Bloons, loses his edge after 80. For the price, he's difficult to use. Tough to get in at the right spot at the right time and actually make him worthwhile. Dark Knight pops Moabs, but not much of anything else. So if you put him in the right spot, yeah, he's going to do an awesome job. But if you put him in the wrong spot, he's pretty garbage. Unstable Concoction. We're talking about a late-game tower that's 3rd tier. That's really weird. Don't get him unless you're going 80+. Impoppable or Chimps, man. That's when you want to use this guy. Pretty much no other time. Monkey Bank, gotta put a farm somewhere. Please don't hate me. Monkey Bank's going there. Double Gun. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, my God. Double Gun me up, baby. This guy is good for low-tier Bloons. Really, really, really good. Stuns them on the screen and does a ton of pops. Yes, he's good. But late game, not so much. So that's why he stays here, only in B. MIB. You gotta put a village somewhere, right? I mean, it's just like, how much does it actually support? And, like, yeah, it does some support. So that's why it's in B tier. It's pretty solid, not amazing. Oh, man, there's a lot of towers in the A tier list for me. You can tell, if you just look at all these guys, we've got a lot in A, a lot in B, a decent amount in C, decent amount in D, and a little bit less in F. I think that's fair. There's not going to be a ton of terrible towers. There's not going to be a ton of amazing towers, but I spread it out as good as I possibly could. So we're talking about Triple Shot here. He's in A tier because he pops a lot of Bloons for an early game cheapo tower. Not good super duper late game, but early game he's awesome. Kylie Boomerang. Boomerangs, you're going to notice 2 B tiers and 1 A tier. That's pretty sweet, man. He is probably the best Boomerang. If you put him in the right spot, of course. If you put him in the right spot. Moab Maulers. Oof. Yeah. We pop Moabs, dude. Spam these guys, you get a lot of damage. It's pretty awesome. Hot Shots, man. Holy crap. Don't underestimate this guy. If you alchemize a 302 Hot Shots, you get a ridiculous amount of damage for the price. It's almost insane. Probably one of the weirdest but best towers in the game. Cryo Cannon. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're doing damage with this guy. We're doing a ton of stallage. We're doing everything we want to do, and we get to aim in pretty far distances. It's pretty cool. I like him a lot. He's fun to use, but still not anything higher than A tier. Just okay. Moab Glue. Got a lot of uses. You know, I mean, he's already slowing down Bloons, but of course, you put him on strong, he's going to hit every single Moab. Slowing them down, for that price, that's ridiculous. One of the best towers in the game for popping Moabs, even though he doesn't even do any damage to them. Bouncing Bullet. Oh, yeah. Don't underestimate this guy, you know? I think a lot of people underestimate this guy these days. Bouncing Bullet's really not that bad. Check him out. Just check him out. I think you're gonna agree with me if you check this guy out and use him a little bit more in your games. Triple Guns. Yeah, subs are one of the top tier towers in the game, just overall. It's hard to say that Triple Guns, even though it's just an Airburst Darts kind of 2.0 here, is not worthwhile. He is. He's pretty sweet. Destroyer, yes, he does damage. Tons and tons and tons of damage for a measly price here. Kind of relate him to like a Dragon's Breath Wizard, but like a little better, actually. But, again, you gotta put him on water, so that always makes things a little weird. Cannon Ship, top tier damage doer. Early game, mid game, not super duper late game, but like, dude, he does a lot of damage. Razor Rotors. Got a huge buff recently. Now it does 2 damage instead of 1 damage. We literally doubled the Razor Rotor's output here. How can I not put him in A tier? It'd be ridiculous not to. Laser Cannon. All right, he's going in A tier. If you argue with me on this, I have to shut you down. Laser Cannon is top tier. He's good. Pops a lot of Bloons. Like, a lot of Bloons. For the price you're spending, this guy pops a lot of frickin' Bloons. Good against Moabs. Good against everything. He doesn't really have a weakness, besides maybe leads. Cough, cough. Lead to gold, baby. We're making cash flow, and we're doing damage. We're literally insta-killing lead balloons. Taking balloons off the screen. Don't underestimate this guy. I would highly recommend you build a lead to gold in any game that's not chimps. It's worth it. Just totally is. Right on 27, by the way. Build him on 27, and you're going to make your money back on 28 and 30, and you already got a free tower that now does damage for the rest of the game. How can you beat that? Banana Plantation. Farms go somewhere. Primary Training. Heck yeah, baby. All right, so we've got a Primary Training that does a ridiculous amount of buffs to every single primary tower for a lowly price of $800. Talk about yes, yes, and yes, and not just like a buff, like triple buffs or quadra buffs. It's pretty sweet. Monkey Town, extra cash flow. Difficult to put that guy down, but I understand that saving up $10,000 kind of early game is not easy to do. So A tier is possibly an overstatement for a lot of players out there, and I respect that. All right, guys, only 3 towers in my S tier. Yeah, it's true. It's real. It's hard. It's really hard to find a tower that I can say is top tier, best of the bunch out of all these guys. And I could respect you saying all 3 of these towers don't deserve to be in S tier. I could respect that. I can understand that. But I'm telling you guys that these are my favorite, my best towers in the game right now as far as 3rd tier towers are concerned. These guys are delicious. Hydro Rocket Pods to start it all off here. The Dartling Gun is one of the best towers in the game, and it's mostly revolving around the Hydro Rocket Pods. This guy just does so much pops. It's crazy. He's got everything under the belt. He could do anything he wants to. He could even pop Moabs and group Moabs and BFBs and giant chunks of ceramics. He doesn't really have a weakness, all right? He's got it all covered, and that's where Hydro Rocket Pods has got to go in S tier, guys. He's delish. All right, Spike Balls. I could easily see somebody saying, what the heck's going on with Spike Balls here, Chris? Well, S tier? Spike Balls? Well, if you're going to get a Spike Factor right now, and you want to use this guy, you want to use one that's like just going to be good, just for a little bit, Spike Balls is the way to go, bro. Get a 3-2 Spike Factory, and even if a Moab sneaks through, you're probably going to pop it all the way down to nothing. Like, it's awesome. It's very powerful for the amount of money you're spending. It's not going to be super duper good, super duper long, but it's just great for what it does, which is saves your butt when you're having some trouble. And Berserker Brew. So, Alchemist, everybody knows, top-tier Alchemist in the game. We're talking about 3rd tier, we're talking about 4th tier. Both are really, really good. Berserker Brew, though, even by himself, we're adding so much popping power to so many towers, it's almost insane. I will say that the 4th tier is my definite, like, get him next as fast as possible. As soon as you have a Berserker Brew, go for the 4th tier. Stronger Stim, absolutely. But still, Berserker Brew is not bad at all. He's going to add a lot of extra buffs here, guys. But make sure you're using him on the right towers. You know, there's so many towers out there that you could easily use a Berserker Brew on where you're just wasting his power. But if you use him on the right towers, like a Hot Shots or something weird like that, you're going to really, really, really be happy with yourself here. So this is my top tier list of all 3rd tier towers in Bloons Tower Defense 6. I don't know if we want to make a second tier list or a first tier list, but I want to say thank you guys for listening to Chris's talk today, because these are a little bit difficult to make for me. I really feel like I put a lot of heart and soul into these guys, and I really try to do my best for you guys. Like, I absolutely do think these out and try to do a good job, and I'm not perfect, but I try my absolute best. So if you guys do end up enjoying this content, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll have more content for you guys very, very soon. Let me know if you're enjoying this, by the way. Maybe we will make certain other tier lists, or let me know what you'd like to see as far as tier lists are concerned, because I actually have a fun time making these. Even though they're difficult, I have a fun time making these, and that's 100% true. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a super duper delicious day.